All right, gentlemen. Just in case you hadn't had a rageful enough conversation.
I think you'll be surprised at this next conversation.
This is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to this.
All right.
So last week, there was the trailer for Metal Gear Survive.
There was.
And of course, everyone who talks about video games on Twitter, we all immediately jump on and start giving our 2 cents.
I've got something to say.
I've got something to say. And my something to say was that I thought that the reaction to the trailer was like the most like lame ass Hideo Kojima fanboy reaction to what is like sure, like they're making a zombie game. A lot of people disagreed with me that like this is them, you know, doing what they shouldn't do with this franchise. I thought actually if they're going to do anything with it, with Kojima gone, Konami are, then this is probably what they should be doing. But you know, you guys are fans of the series. This is a good time to sort of have this conversation. The two of us, this chinwag, if you will, because we had a little bit of a back and forth on Twitter about it. So this will, let's. I guess I want to. Where do you come from on this? What was your initial feeling when you saw the trailer for Metal Gear Survive?
Not surprised.
Okay.
Interested in so much as I think there's a very solid gameplay foundation that they're able to pull from. Now, granted, the whole idea of like co-op, you can kind of like see it in the online thing, but I don't know how it's going to translate into single player. Curious, but also being someone who is a fan of Hideo Kojima's work, specifically Metal Gear. Like it's not like everything he does I love, right? But I really like what he's done with that series, what he did with that series. And then understanding how Konami treated him and how they regard the series in general.
Right.
And money and consoles and games on consoles versus mobile and pachinko. It seems to me to be sort of a soulless move that may not be a disaster.
Right.
Right. But I think it's fair to feel it's fair to feel weird about it. I think that's okay. Because this isn't like Kojima is making a spin-off.
Right.
You know, this isn't like his executive producer is making a spin-off. I mean, this is clearly a game that is like, I mean, it's even using the setting of his last game as the basis for the story.
So I think that's a part of it where I felt like people were being a bit contrarian, where like there's a universe somewhere, right, where this game was made by Hideo Kojima, right? And then people, I feel like, would have been like falling all over for it. That I think the reaction for this, like all the negative, the thumbs down, many of which will be on this video as well, I'm sure. All the like people, you know, berating it and saying, oh, it's a boring zombie game and all this sort of stuff. That if this was like a Revengeance, or if this was like, you know, any one of the other spin-offs, that people would have been like, oh no, okay, that's cool. Let's give it a shot. And I feel like people aren't allowing this to like this game to be good.
I don't think there's anything that they could have announced when people would have been like, I am behind this. This is awesome. This is the Metal Gear. Like, no, Kojima's gone. Like, I don't think that there is a reality where someone's like, the next game is something that I'm looking forward to. But I think that's part of the, like, that's fine. Like, they can really do whatever they want. And you can't give up on Metal Gear if you're Konami. Like, this is a franchise that makes money.
So to address both your points, in an alternate dimension where Hideo Kojima made this game, that would be an alternate dimension where Kojima does not base games around very strong characters who represent something like pretty big and meaningful to the world around them. This game has a bunch of blank faces that are cookie cutter, like character customization things going on, right? And
you're the character. It's you.
I mean, well, I don't want to spoil anything for any. Never mind. Never mind. But to your point, though, as someone who is maybe among the upper echelon of like devotees, like I really like his stuff. I buy a lot of like Metal Gear merchandise and shit because I just love it.
Do you get the hand? Do you have like an arm that?
No, I have the small one, but they do sell the big one. There's one at the store in San Francisco, and I want to buy it to put the ghost from Destiny, that figure in his hand, just for that. Back to your point, I would absolutely love it if Konami had the gall to say, we are going to tell a side story based on a character that we've only learned a fraction of what we've learned of Big Boss and Solid Snake. And I think there are a lot of fans who would appreciate that they at least are putting in effort to fleshing out the universe in a certain way. This is introducing a few things that doesn't really add to the series. And I think for the majority of people, Metal Gear is way more than the gameplay.
See, and that's an interesting sort of. That's where I felt like we kind of had a hit, or like our maybe crux of our disagreement last week was that, like, for me, like, I don't care about the story in these games really whatsoever. They're just like something interesting that's happening, some weird ass anime shit that's going on while I'm going around killing people, right? Like, even like I guess in Metal Gear Solid 2 I probably felt the most engaged, but like 4 was kind of where I was like, I'm not really.
I'm with you. I actually
care
cannot
anymore.
stand.
Oh really?
4. Oh, I abhor 4.
And what I enjoyed about 5 was that, like, there is clearly like story going on, which means a lot to like people who are fans of the series. But I just loved that it was like, oh, it's an open world game. Like, I was, big boss or whatever. But like, so I think that, like, okay, Konami are going to make a game, and you're right. Like, some people would like to see like more of the story being told. I think if Konami told the story without Hideo Kojima, that would have been way more of a bad idea. That some people would have been pissed that they were touching. It's like rewriting the Bible, right? It's like he's not there anymore. And what I kind of feel is that, like, those are probably the things that he was unbelievably good at, that the team couldn't do without him, was telling those stories and like creating those characters. Whereas like Hideo Kojima didn't write the netcode, or like necessarily, I don't know how much input he had into like things like controlling, and I'm sure he was involved at every level. He's a creative director, but like surely there are people there who are able to do those things. So maybe giving them this sort of more of a blank slate in terms of the narrative is a good idea, or it plays into what they're able to do rather than what people want.
Or I think in some ways, letting them kind of letting them do a game that doesn't matter. Like, here's a game that's just going to be fun.
We're going through a teleporter. And anything can happen.
And then the next game, you bring in like some auteur director. Like, so now they can bring in somebody else after this game, whether it's a success or failure, and it will probably not be critically well received. But I think it almost gives them the freedom to reboot Metal Gear in some ways.
The thing is, there's so much source material that the series has never examined in an expansive way that you don't need someone with a creative vision to concoct it. It's there. It's waiting to be developed. And I think I would personally... Sorry?
If you were the director, what game would you make? It sounds like you have an idea.
I'd make a game about Gray Fox, man. Everyone, like, he had a lot of early years, like, with interactions with other characters, and a lot of this transpired into events in the future. I think there is a very interesting story to tell. I would like to see Metal Gear Rising 2. I would like to see more of that story. Raiden isn't a fan favorite character, but he's at least a character whose story began after the events of the rest of the series, handled by a different studio, proving that you can expand upon the universe without Hideo Kojima's direct involvement. Ergo, why not try it again?
Right.
Shall we look at the poll?
Sure, yeah.
You
conducted a poll, yeah. So we had a poll which was basically like asking people whether or not they played the game for... Well, sorry, you put this together. So
Yes, your assertion that people play the game for the gameplay, first and foremost.
Yeah.
And I took exception to that because I thought it was perhaps both.
Right.
So 1,485 people voted on the poll. I will start with the lowest percentage response. Gameplay.
Really?
12%.
Okay.
The second one was story.
Okay.
21%.
All right. Almost double.
And add those two together, and you get close to, but not quite, 39%, which is both.
Okay.
People who play the games for both. So if you look at it in that regard, you've got...
I didn't vote for either of those.
You've got about... I know, get there. You've got 60% of the audience who voted on this.
Okay.
Want some semblance of story to be attached to, a story that they're familiar with the series that will continue on in the next entry to get attached to.
That they can probably get their shooter kicks anywhere else, but this game provides them something that those games don't.
Correct.
All right.
You may be thinking, hey, there's some numbers missing. I did the math, and that's not 100%.
Okay.
28% of people played just for the butts.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
Hideo Kojima does a really good job of putting butts in his video game.
He does. So I guess that'll be the big. That's why people are pissed, I guess.
That was to weed out the jokers. I mean, I think.
Like you Justin.
That's what I play for.
That's why Trump's on the ballot. Weed out the jokers.
Some of us just want to watch the butts burn.
Yeah. So I think it's safe to say that Metal Gear is a franchise that not everyone is into from the get-go. It was sort of niche in a mainstream way.
Yes.
And a lot of that is credit to the world and the characters that have been established and developed over decades. So after the fallout with Konami, to treat that sort of stuff as an afterthought and make the gameplay the icon that you're going for, I can understand why people are perhaps having a negative reaction.
Right.
I think a lot of those people and myself believe this game could be fun, but it's also fair to balk at the concept of it.
Okay, so I will contest, or I won't contest. I will admit defeat on the point of clearly there are a lot more people who play this game who care about the story than I was thinking. So then
These are my followers too, though. So I don't know.
Right,
I
so they're
tweet a lot
probably a
about
bit
the series.
more-
It's probably
yeah.
skewed a little bit.
and just people who are willing to vote on any video game poll are going to be a bit more core than regular folks. But like, then also, or I think you can maybe what sort of, I don't know, was the final nail in the coffin for its release was the fact that not only is this a bunch of people who probably play a lot of games and don't necessarily care about the gameplay just on its own, but then also the two things that we get from this trailer, even though I think the trailer is like fine, but at the end of the day, it has the word survive in it, which is like already associated with like, I don't know, every game on Steam and like so many games that are out there in betas and alphas, and then it has zombies, which have long been the
Oh,
most,
Danny, they're
like-
not zombies. Konami said up and down. Oh, these aren't zombies.
What are they? Like
I don't know.
Like the infected.
They're
okay,
not zombies.
right. But you have hordes, let's say, of AI coming after you,
Yeah,
which you know, again, people often associate with this like trite, overly done game mechanic, like an easy mechanic, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's it.
And it has Metal Gear attached to it.
Right.
I mean, Konami could have made this any game.
Okay. Yeah.
They could have just called it Survive.
Yeah.
You know.
But if they were going by your poll, they would have been much better served by calling it Butts.
But story and gameplay.
Just the butts.
That should have been.
There you go. It's interesting. It's crazy that a game is announced and like usually it's impossible to remove a game from the story of the game that happened before, but like so much of the response to this is based so much on what has happened previously, which I guess people love Hideo Kojima. I love Hideo Kojima, and what happened to Konami seems like it was real shitty from what we have learned, and the way they treat their employees seemed to be pretty shitty from what we learned as well.
Yeah.
But it was just, I don't know. I was like taken aback by the response, but
It's kind of the same story with Metroid. I mean, I don't know
Right.
if you pay a lot of attention to like the Nintendo scene, but people were very upset about Metroid Prime Federation Force when it was first announced.
well, because they're making a Metroid game, but they're not making the Metroid game people want.
It's the first one in a long time. And even then, the last one they handed off to a third-party studio who tinkered with it too much in terms of the character and story.
Right.
So, I mean, I think, and then if you couple in No Man's Sky, there's been a whole lot of like expectations, reactions, kind of butting heads, and it's been interesting this past few weeks.
It's like that with any type of creative venture. I think that we tie a lot to the person who creates something. Sometimes with like Metroid, there is no sole creator. Like
Right.
Metroid is just a Nintendo franchise and they can do whatever they want, so we don't have an attachment to the person who made it. Something like Metal Gear, that is Kojima.
Yeah.
Or something like Harry Potter is
Right.
J.K. Rowling. If somebody else writes a Harry Potter book, it's not going to be as interesting.
Fan
If somebody else
fiction.
makes Metal Gear, it's not as Metal Gear.
Yeah.
But I want to see that though. I would love to see someone try to capture what Kojima does in their own way with the characters that have this lore that they can rely upon.
Right,
I think
yeah.
that would be fascinating.
Animatrix that shit. Get a bunch of creative people to like
No.
make their own little games based on the.
They released the visual novels that were
Right.
drawn by Ashley Wood with voiceovers on PSP. Put all those characters and scenarios in a new light, and it was really cool.
I mean, you
to
could
see
probably
that.
say the same thing about Revengeance in a way. Is that like the team who worked
yes,
on that?
exactly.
Was,
Yeah.
And probably Acid as well. I imagine whoever was.
Oh yeah, well, right. Those games were fundamentally very, very different.
Yeah.
but I think Kojima was still involved to a point.
Right. There you go. You won't be involved in this one. Metal Gear Survive. It's coming
Evolve?
out. It's coming out.
Survive.
Survive.
No, Metal Gear
Evolving
Survive.
Survive.
Yeah, Evolve's free to play. Metal Gear Survive is
Survive.
not free to play.
Survive.
It's not going to be a full price game. Apparently,
Right.
that's a weird thing to say. That makes me think it's going to turn up on Steam in the survival section. We'll have to wait and see. Let us know what you think about Metal Gear Survive in the comments below, and do your thumbs up, thumbs down. Let's see those fly.